Yeah. Okay, now. Ja, tjena, Febo. Anders what?
La Sojupanla, I've been doing computer work today. I have so many prayer books open. Excuse me.
Nala damara jibe ja, nobara jibe ge, tarwa dong tam jin jembe, war de jubara jiba tam ji je so jibe, ma nam ka dong nyambe sam jen, tam ji dewa dong den, dong a dong chi nyor tu la na mi bar, yang ta bara zobe chang ju ren bo xie to bara chai da la dong mo re chi bi zha no bara chi bi ge dar wa dong tam chi chen be par du ju bara chi ba tam chi je so chi be yan ma nam ka dong nyen be sim chen tam chi dewa dong den dong ara dong chi nyor tu la na mi bar yang ta bara zobe chang chu ren bo chi to bara cha. English?
Hallo, Obo.
Ah,
So,
ja,
uh,
to.
all other sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly will I establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Chi tu sam ma ji ji fa tu lu nga yi sun ge wa la gu ro ma xi wa tu lu nga yi sun ge wa la. 今天起题啤酒 龙啊一送给我了个马些我的龙啊一送给我了个具体人的送的你马上他怎么接我的龙啊一送给我了个
Just until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
真的他们可以突击小姐来顺中心，要么到对基本资金他们小姐姐为小到上升，多级强化带路那时候他们没。发展几天工，各地什么样子为了没下这就了嘛，他们其中老师玩的所有道具、情节咯，我真的他那漂亮，像成员那了，他这的话，他他没碰写吧，这位是出去的话，经常你怕这里，他那是你先那是的大米那是的那是你大米成都被东北你写吧，这是那是的大米吧。我都是打起在起，打做生意，差不多同样有嘛的是。这趟我当初在打做，但是在说成这把子两回了，听到这把子做打起，要不在起那边这把子，我是差不多的有嘛的是天的，在那是没当没些吧，东把的些吧下，现在这样子了吧。
So, in our text, the Garland of the Sublime Path, we are at the 10 things to be understood. And the second one, continue with the second one, that is understand that inner mind is empty because it is devoid of self entity. So recognize that the mind is without self, without a self, and therefore empty. So if you examine, if you actually look at the mind, you can see that there is no existing material thing. Of course, it seems that it's real because we have these like grasping and perceptions in the mind. But actually, if we really look carefully, we can see that it lacks any inherent existence.
它的像是大学习，要不这听那的，差不多有嘛的，这东西呢，我当说，它的大设置的呢，那啥东西上吧，它可能就是让恰现当这的恰当么说，然后呢，我当说想提大这了的呢，真的我说绿的了，基本嘛不经济这了的呢，真的，在嘛的嘛不就用过了吧，我听绿的呢，这里也是，别让大学习呢，真的能想得，想能干的不是，那能干的不是，让他错不掉嘛的，想得的是有嘛的，但他的是为了小看人呢，等于是把点都要有嘛的吧，我真的想能干的不是。
And so this mind, so if we investigate the mind carefully, then we can see that it lacks any inherent existence. It doesn't really exist, but then because we perceive a self, because we think that there is a self, we experience suffering. All suffering comes from this belief in a self. And because we perceive a self, we are attached to ourselves and we see others as a threat. And that comes also from mainly from cherishing our own body, from caring much about our own body. But actually, when analyzed, if you investigate carefully, the essential nature of mind is actually like space.
真的，但是这趟我说打现在那个了，打现在他这趟打是这一万车啊嘛不，有啥来看？这趟我说抗啥打，球打你这，他抗啥打是做的啊，是俺几十让一口，所以说有人用个话，俺说可操嘛的哟，我的俺是的，我在抗啥打起，我真的当年去这边像那个刚完了话是那种，也是这有了的手机打，我当年加了，然后这里有了哇。我这球击打，我这那个票啥，我这打似的，我真的打也不打些劲的打，刚咋打才出球打才出嘛，别想着现在我让是球去打就行了。他在加拿大这是别想着是加拿大呢，这之前没不错的说，别想看吧这现在之前没不错的看吧是没错的嘛，风不啥那的声音那的，这咔的。这没头都要么了，这就先嘛我在做，那这看把是做不了些，这把一万的钱，这做不了要么了，我这能一的是，我推送这个康萨去打嘛了，推送的要不开始进来，推送过要不进来，这个要嘛的是，我真的想的打是做不了，是要嘛的是，我真的就念着送成就啊的，那一般着送。我真的那像就是那啥，多少的点都要有嘛，然后是打铁呢，就是多少那啥点都有嘛。你那真当俺没办俺自己，是俺没办俺自己，我真是的哒。
So we speak about this self, but so then actually a real self cannot be found, and then there's many different ways of explaining what a self is. For example, we speak about the self of a person or the self of phenomena. And so how we can understand that is, so the self of person is, for example, thinking that this is me. So there's this sense of me, that's me and I. And then the self of phenomena is this mine, like my. So this one is me and the other one is my, like it's my legs, my hands, my things, that my possessions, the things that I own. And so um, um, so so this self of phenomenon refers to the identity of those things that we call ours, but really also the self of phenomena is something that we look at that consists of a collection of parts. For example, we call something a house, but actually when we look closer, there is no such a thing called a house. It's just a collection of many parts. So first there was earth, there's wood and different materials. So on their own, we don't call them a house. But then when these come together, we label that a house. And so similarly, when you analyze a self, um, when you look at whether there is a self throughout the 3 times or throughout the 3 stages of arising, abiding, and ceasing, you won't find anything truly existing, a moment that where it truly exists on its own. There is no inherently existing person or thing that can be found. It's all a collection of many parts. So that's the meaning of no self of a person and or the individual, no self of individual, and no self of phenomena. So,
对呢，那就当起那的是，他知道的，可是。我他打他咋让西马抓不得？他是对的，现在他做吧，他们去一趟车的这是，我真的听着那把你们那的西过来是干说的，那边西吧的，他要忙西吧，那把街没就是那把的街嘛西忙西吧，对没是忙那套成对手嘛，他这西吧的他所求嘛就是他这西吧所求嘛就是呢，他这西吧的讲，那你们那去过来是什么原因吧？进，他你们那去过来是。
so there is no truly existing self, nor is there a truly existing thing, a phenomenon. And so that is that nothing that exists by its like from its own side. And so this is an understanding that must become practice. And so we practice it by focusing our mind and not dwelling on the past, not entertaining the future, and right now not altering the natural state as it is. So the main point is to be without distraction.
我的其他这里你不做吧的其。他跑南坡见我南坡我南坡的见都比老我的西巴些，我的南坡是什么见过了，要不是那见他的见过度假是那在见他见那些空中西当那样，上坡是那见上坡在见那哈，他见过了，我的人都见见吧，老我西巴些，他老我是的，他过老我见过了，俺那说，我这我那些都他让你钞票嘛，是那票的。
이바다 찼어요.
아니 받을 수 있는 사례 나 인가도
어,
마고 chen 유ring 먹고 살아와.
어. Mhm. Then we move on to the next verse, that is, understand that thoughts are momentary because they occur due to conditions. So thoughts arise out from various conditions. And so whether good or bad. So positive thoughts arise due to a condition, also negative thoughts like anger. They depend on a condition that triggers the emotion. And these conditions are temporary. So they're temporary, they arise and they trigger that anger. So it's just something fleeting. They are not inherently existing.
真的，他这里是他老外西巴家是这南话的，南想他们南想你们这外情不有的是光那你们这样的是，我南想在去南话他同样的南想在的，而且这样的他结婚去了吧？我听没有听南跑是那让一钞票他们这倒是奇怪是，但南晓得这大现在要不在去那南跑才让一钞票要马上那说，我南跑在大现在南跑在那里是那三点就嘛。 내손에서 대견도 요 말와 난 도체 코나라 이 좁대래 말. 이나 당가라 난 도체 제 랑호도 요 쇼친보. 제 쇼친보 요래다네. 그 시당하나 시당들 때 제스 장송도 되네. 라자니는 마데를 먹고. 손으로 그래. 我在上头现在上坡头点的在强理解讲究性那所解呀，我这里有那边头写当着这一那年吧，在这边年吧见着呀，在上头一那上坡的话，这点那上见着呀，我在这里有了的，那这个当初当时也我在其他的能多少钞票嘛，但能多少这第三个当初没得一块点呢，这能多少在结婚的车点呢在安这个。 tiki chedi yorada, karisana tiki on short, nampati on short, so de then not the ongoing the mobile the team.
But then the external appearances and the inner mind, there's a connection. And so the connection between the inner mind and the external appearances are the conceptual thoughts. So you might wonder if these thoughts have a true existence. So thoughts arise based on outer conditions. So whether or not these thoughts really exist is also something that we need to analyze, even though we understand that the appearances don't exist. So when you actually do look at the thought, you can see that they do not truly exist. You can't really pinpoint them. You can't say this is where the thought is. There is the thought. But then still, when the thought arises, especially something like strong anger, it feels real, and then you follow the thought, you become controlled by the anger, and then that causes a lot of unhappiness for yourself and others. And so anger, then due to the condition of anger, the cause of anger, that leads to the experience of hell. And when we develop positive thoughts, which are also temporary and lack true existence, like love, compassion, and bodhicitta, they lead to enlightenment. But still, so if you analyze it, it's still just a thought, good or bad. You can't find a thought that possesses a true, solid existence, but it's due to ignorance that thoughts arise and that we follow these thoughts. And so as a result of becoming controlled by these thoughts, we always encounter difficulties.
Well, then the 담자 셈 기본도 세제로 삼자 동안도 세제로 나한테 지도 니키도 당가로 남도시 소를 해. 지보세 남도시 소를 도보세 남도시. 오늘 진 동탄비 와서 다시 지선 지보세 초대를 마 도보세 초대를 요 말와. 알아서 다시 야 치고 그래. 삼자 나라서 셈을 강에 몸보지 용거로 와. 다제 코베 삼선 셈 마치 봐. 我听着王博有说，他说要不说大事情，马戏点在卡兰都，卡兰那也里头，他说要不在当时那个传的要嘛的，这样的，记录你不，他给我说了什么，记录你去传的要嘛了哇，我这样的，俺俩说他说你们俩的事都是大戏剧，那等俺俩说的偏高有人怎么的了。天天我说银行中心啊，天天我按照那要晓得，那卡在把提，卡把多什么长嘛长毛都是白了多，这现在长毛在哪能多了我。
Tanda kang babede.
배 강반도 세.
Oh. Mhm. Dene?
네, 다제 가서 참모 참모도 나 들으라도 참모대 다 남포라고 안 삼삼 사와요라 사와대 남포 저 소를 그라 저거 당가 친중화들见有的真이나 말아서 남포 된 집에 휴식 보고 돼 차류차 너무 더 장류차 너무 더 봐.
Mhm. So sometimes we feel happy and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel sad. And both are creations of our mind. They're thoughts. And so ultimately, a thought does not truly exist. So that's something we need to analyze very carefully. So when the mind feels really unhappy, we have to really give that a closer look. Like, what is this really, this feeling? What is this feeling of feeling so unhappy? Where is it exactly? You won't find anything real. So happiness and sadness are both created by the mind. They may appear, but they don't actually really exist. So it's really very helpful to analyze that carefully, to take a closer look at these feelings. For example, right now I'm in Arizona and it's actually snowing a lot right now. And so then a lot of people say that, oh, it's so freezing cold, I can't take it. But then come summer, everybody will be complaining about the heat and say it's just so hot, I can't take it. In a way, it feels hard to take, but actually, it's just something that we fabricate and something that we make in our mind. Yes.
真的当俺让从你们俩在一起用的，但这都你不切怕的，肯定都是要不大个多，只不过点那个说偏跑还是用的，都不点那相对偏跑还是用，他就当时这些呢，这都你可以让一马 drop 的人在多那天，提纲在你们俩其他们要不啥的是，他就是没得看你嘛，这罗马就他们帮设计有啊。这种的话，但南瓜的光学就不是的，南瓜的了别弄了，他们没别光学就不是，日本的了别弄了，有个没别光学就不是，像说的了我们了，肯定没别光学就不是，张三的了别弄，但三的了别弄，这样的光的就不是了，是吧？这呢，这那边没在光家的，这说的是的，他接了就是么那在接的，没他那不。然后南瓜光是对了的，说这光把种嘛的是，咱说这的我们都是，如果光是对了，这自行光把种嘛的是，接触光是对了的，接触光是对了的，巴拉光把种嘛的是，巴拉是有吧接触，这蓝色光是对了的，南方光把种嘛的是，这有吧，这许多就是么那边开始，南瓜光是对了呢。说这南北冲突的是，如果南北冲突的我的是，南瓜让跟俺这公司，我在南瓜让这公司在上提纲了，人家提纲下过的是，我真的如果光对对了，那最近如果冲突的是，我最近的如果冲突的是，我真的如果俺这个有个如果俺这公他说是。在江苏光头对了呢，巴拉不江苏全处的，是我在江苏上给对，江苏可能买个，巴拉都是这么当买的是。上山光头对了，那跑三不全处的是我在上山光头对我全处的，那跑的三全处的是我在这那跑的是用个人的，但没用了，现在俺说这两年前呢，我全处去过的，送票啥的。
Um, is it? So when you no, when you examine the mind, when you look at the mind, then you see how the mind is when you feel sad or when you feel happy, and the reason why this is beneficial is because you can't actually find anything that is really there. It's really just an idea in your mind. So that's really good to understand that. Milarepa, when he gave meditation instructions to his student Bardabum, he told her, go and meditate on the sky, and to rest your mind without center or boundary, and meditate on your mind like a mountain, like stable and firm, and meditate on your mind like an ocean without depth or surface. So meditate without distractions. So he sent her off to meditate, and later she came back and reported. She said, "When I meditate on the sky, on space, my mind feels at ease. But when clouds appear, I feel uneasy. When I meditate on a mountain, I feel comfort. But then when all the different bushes and plants appear, then I feel not so easy. When I meditate on the ocean, there's comfort, but then when the waves appear, I feel uneasy. When I meditate, resting in my mind, it feels I feel comfort, but when thoughts appear, I feel uneasy. And Milarepa replied, if you feel ease when resting in the sky and clouds appear, then see the clouds are just the display of the sky. Don't worry about them. They're part of the sky. If it's easy to meditate on the mountain, then all the trees are just the display of the mountain. They're part of the mountain. If you find it easy to meditate on an ocean, then the waves are just the display of the ocean. Don't focus on the waves. And if it's easy to meditate, if I'm comfort in resting in your mind, then the thoughts arising are just the display of the mind. So thoughts, they will come, but don't get distracted by them.
松哎，
Yes, sir.
真的做当个人说的，那么做在这样子。 상해에서 난 지금说这个从这个做的都那说说这但是说你们是三万人脾气，这你们也不去过说的是。
So the main point is that when thoughts, mainly thoughts arise due to various so-called good or bad conditions, various conditions. So due to these conditions, we become controlled. Our thoughts control the mind. And so that is why we need to practice. So the main point is to practice without distraction.
哦，咱喜欢是吧？喜欢这啦，论中医，中医论啊，对是周边，没他吧，西吧的啥子，我这论中啊是差不多的，啥去买农药了，啥，但是啥个让你咱俺做下头在啥会让你啥的，这也不让你去了哇，查的了哇，这出去买查的，这我这农药下头了，我这中啊是从对的那种查到的是，我真对的，真他真对的，他们把钱着。처음 맡아 총등 좀 뭐지 처벌 처벌이 나다 처음 맡아 총등 좀 본다 세워서 그 제일 로그로 어떻게 나기리 그래서 일본에 다자 좀 뒤돌이 근데 중앙에서 제 차만요 그래서 나시월에 사시월에 다 텔레데는 가서 제다 대동 나서 수용도야 되다 나서 다다 이그 소소소소다 나서 레드 말에 대한 나서 그런 참선도 텔레데는 되네 된 중에 루인을 되는 나서 대도 텔레가 나서 안지바 침보 제 차디 오르와 哦，这他妈这单独机是没他的，没他对的企业的，没他嘛搞这要嘛的，就是没来的配送我的，他让他那些先去这了，基本上一的，基本跑了老嘛的，基本他先去这的，有人我带个嘛哇，真跑了个啦，我在哪里的，是的，老嘛的，是的，老带什么都，是大些地呢，我送的哇。
Um, and then the body is formed of the four elements, and so earth, water, fire, wind. For example, the flesh is the earth element. Our flesh, the body's flesh, is the earth element. Then the blood is the water element. The body heat is the fire element. Our breath is the wind element. So these four elements come together to form our body, and in the end, they will separate. So this coming together is just like friends meeting at a marketplace and eventually going their own way. Then while the elements are together, when these elements become unbalanced, we experience pain or become sick. So all of the suffering that we experience comes from our ignorance, the karma created through ignorance. And this is what keeps us wandering in samsara, taking on a body, creating a body. And the body is impermanent because it is a compounded phenomenon. And because we fixate tightly to that body, we experience sickness and pain as a result. But it is said that everything that comes together will eventually again part ways. All compounded things are impermanent. Milarepa also said that the consciousness is like like the mind and the body together. The consciousness is like a bird sitting on a tree, and so it won't stay there long. Eventually, it will fly away.
哦，但今天中国是中国的，论经济了，他够穷咱呢。论经济了，他够穷咱呢，就是把他讲全部都，是他就全部我是了，就是把他全部都是，就全部我是把的这，如果要我是了，这种，就得把他全部我是了之后，最终想着他够的熊呢，永远是他够的是，永远是满足呢，然后这 OK 没错的是，但然后这然后这收就是说了收是不什么错吧，可能我可能我呢，他东没错那也是，东没错，他有人不得个嘛，他我干两个吧。这个提前都看嘛，都落到神都么都，怎么要不当手动到几点钟？我这里真，我这对我当初他自己没他自己上光头那要我嘞，我当初做我这娘们起下钱给嘛的，没他什么这样对娘们起下钱学嘛的，他别想的是那我当初他的 nye course mo mabo shigerwa this is sure de nga so tong do ha ko ge sama ko ge de nga so shi jo zam zam no chun da nyo ma le o te nga so shi jo ba de sam da de de nga so nyam na di shi o te ri chi tom ya bo sa ri da da di kare但杨队当个真就这么的当过是他们这个，我在前段那个就去要的，两年去要的，初那么吃个的，没啥事的光头呢。我这里你嘛干部把高他们去给一年做早了，送人可能他判着人看的，他妈拿老去这里，这高他们给一年是当年只要不车嘛算了，TK年年没活动的，那边他妈拿的就没，其实没他也不光是拉倒。我真没大的也不光是，那没大的我那是草马有的天，但我说现在英文气差呢。真正七八有上有嘛的，是没大的别种，我来现在英文特长呢，七八有上有嘛的，七八在看来用学的，是我当说，这同学嘛，那个看来，没接起你些上头，是没接些你些上头，就这有人讲说 hook base，我听着这强着个的，
Cara
因为那
kanara högipi.
hook base 没接起你些上头，是没接一些你些听在上头的是，是吧？这我当说上头有吧，这我出去嘛的，我这 我当时就把韩国出去嘛了。这人家都在现在那么别小钱不好，假设小钱不是提个往学在会送的，真的，你们其他是推销不着喝的。但我当初第四啥子，才知道你们推个来卡波的，在推出我的有的是你们去团那偏多钱不有人我当初，我这边呢，咱们在我当初看的那来去那300上波去，我这种没他钱的是那个嘛的，我当初在300上波去，我真的几天的我当初有人不得呀米，咱们特别容易了。我这个你嘛，跟他们给一年头，就是说小辈子没啥什么推荐没啥光过的是，我这对你嘛这个年纪那嘛这里是嘛穷的多个的是，我这种多。
Die song die long die kastu so mila repas campo pa song song.
跟他们给一年这种大概顺应也钱嘛说。
So la die tabo de
这当可能他搞出哪儿话题的了，
campo pa marwa.
嘛，搞他们给一年这那啥，
搞他们
最终就搞他们给一年这开始种啥呢？你没他推荐说，你妈的没他推荐光过的，再讲呢，你妈的我把电视的穷着的，这点呢，真的你们是说嘛，这是我弄出来的，其他没什么说。
And Chicken Sumgan had said that you know for the time being, our body may be a source of great wealth and power and strength, but it's all just a lie. It's all not real. The moment the elements go out of balance, it all collapses quickly. For example, even if one has a perfect and youthful body, it quickly withers like a flower or like a drifting cloud in the fall. Apparently, fall autumn clouds don't stay for long. The winter is coming soon. So we should keep that in mind that I'm not going to stay for long. It's important to think about impermanence. Normally, we don't think about impermanence. And because we don't normally think about impermanence, we don't feel an urgency to practice the Dharma. Even when many people actually die around us, we hear and see about it all the time, but we still don't think, I might be next. I'm going to die. We don't think about it. If you really reflect on impermanence, then it will also move you to practice. So this thought of impermanence becomes a support for Dharma practice. So in the past, some Kadampa geishas gave some advice. If there was one instruction to practice, I have no other instruction to give than this one, it would be to reflect on impermanence because
搞他们给一年汤包那边他干不罢了是吧？
al campo palara.
你懂的，这本来他妈的意思，起码没啥的不光是。
Campo Kadampa la song song.
搞他们给一年，
Yeah.
干部可能给人家当个睡眠车嘛，说的嘛个干部把判着人个了，那个他妈拿了其实干部把赔了是吧？晓得他妈拿了，但年年没活动，这里边得就没，希望起码没大也不光是。
So this was actually taught by Kadamba Geshe Gamboba before he left. And so he said, "Give me one last instruction." And the Geshe said that I have no other instruction but to meditate on impermanence. So he said, they never separate from that thought. And so Milarepa is also what Milarepa had said. He said that we don't, because we are ignorant, we don't think I'm going to die. That is because we are distracted. We are ignorant and distracted by this life, so we don't think about our own death. But in reality, it does come to us slowly. And it does seem that the appearances, the various things that we experience in this life, just this whole life, seems very real, and so there is a strong sense of the reality of this life, and so therefore we don't think about our death. But then once we leave this life behind, at this point, if we have done some Dhamma practice, that would be of the greatest benefit. So in whatever we do, therefore, it's important to keep that in mind. And even if you don't always engage in our practice, but you whatever you do work, you do other things, it's always good to keep that in mind and to have a good intention, because Jigten Sumgön said no one will stay for long. So I really think about that. Also, the past Lampa Geshes have said that in the morning, when you do your very first session, in the morning, you must remember impermanence. If you just do that in the morning and then you go about your activities, just that alone will help reduce the grasping, the fixation to a reality and many afflictive emotions throughout the day.
他的没大天，我在前头看了说，就他们大山呢，我说就当西亚基本嘛的，他们大种这么大有，我说刘破云那没他，可西亚嘛那在带头才常常基本那常常都讲叫着呀，他没他的。这里在俺们开始就变教育呢，在常常要跟常常民那提常嘛的，我说没他的，我这个常嘛是说的，没他一嘛哈过那的，的是差开来的。我开始呢，没大的我说哈嘛，我记得那常常的，看他那看着那俺几个咱们去他就用多常常他就有，我天就这就是没来的别用多的，俺这边见的热了亲是，我这边见的热亲是，这主人这样让他讲，这七八西南亲的这主人这样意思，咱们下面公共意思，但咱们去这里看就去这里，咱们嘛我妈当的意思，我在咱们妈妈他妈在当我的，真的这边地块好那意思。但前面因为这啥事，但前面就怕不是的，但前面因为这啥事情，但前面因为这啥人，没啥的在光我觉得人家口气的气的着，但起码是这样在学在听那个说能多少啊，我这能多这里的，我这个的起码上几毛着吧多少呢？但那个说起率那个刚也没吧，我都俺没吧，他就用说啥的，他那个说在人家那去特别的。可以进步很多，我是你们在系统呢，别可以进步很多啊。
So it is quite important to think about impermanence. When we think about impermanence, it's not just thinking about death. We can think about impermanence in many different ways, all kinds of ways. For example, sometimes your body feels fine and then it changes and you're in pain, or at one time you are wealthy and then you lose it all. So things that we experience in our lives, throughout our lives, all of this is impermanence. So that's very important, very helpful for us to understand. Because if we don't understand that, we will always think that, why is this happening to me? Milarepa said, I feared death and went to the mountains. I thought one day I will die, over and over again. I meditated on this thought, I will die. And that's all I did. I reflected deeply, and eventually the fear of death left me. And from that, I found deathlessness. And this is how his practice grows stronger. He found deathlessness. So if you ultimately, when you really when the practice grows very strong, on the one hand, we think about death. On the other hand, death itself is just another thought. It's just another concept, which also doesn't really exist like any other thought. So when you realize that, death itself is just a not truly existing concept, then there is no more fear. There's no more suffering from death. And so that is why it's so important to practice.
전에 당가 봐들이 내가 봐들라 거는 섬thiên 대도 탐지 레렌 중앙 렌데 메로 봐 시바샤스 당가랑서 제 대바 동안 오늘 제방님에 레설 대한 거래 레 상보사나 대바 유야 되는 님바사는 동안 유야 나서 혹시 그 인도 커리자라 야가 거는 나마 같이 자세 룰라다스 나마 같이 와서 자세 룰다스 지마 컨트롤 자세 렐다스 지마 컨트롤 자세 렐다스 지마 커렌도 사리든 자세 레카 커레탕这没说是这有了哇，看现在在可能一在上班的、前班的去3年去我等于有了，看现在个地方下个我等于有了，他这个说中间嘛，他7、8军推是，在多天连着里面连着聪明会说是吧？我等于那我有了的，我听人家说的连着没说吧，写过说的，连着是别开心不的，当然说的，就当然，但是。그 쇼난 개체교대 내려서 레임데 방아 야고 치고 쇼래 또 다지 당가라서 용어가 제 개발 몇개 주세요 요래든 와다다다 되기다 하고 거 이나 다다다가 소제 심지한 너무 맞지 페아마토나 너무 맞지지这 培养基础系我针对其这我针对其呢我当时自己呢这是中途要骗给我
So whatever we experience, happiness or suffering, it all is the result of the karma. The title first. We come to the next line, the next verse, and that is verse number 5. Understand. So we're already 5. Understand that the consequences of your actions are inevitable because all the pleasure and pain of sentient beings result from karma. So whatever we experience, happiness or suffering, is all the result of karma from past lives. So if you're suffering now, it is due to past negative actions. If you experience happiness now, it is due to virtuous past actions. And there's a saying in Tibet, people say, if you want to know what you did in the past, like past life, look at your current body and life. If you want to know where you're going next, look at your actions now. We can see that some people are naturally very kind, loving, and gentle, whereas others lean toward negativity, being angry, or have really destructive habits. And these differences come from past karma from previous lives. It's called the result corresponding to the cause. So the result is similar to the cause. So the karma determines our experience in this life. Karma is unfailing. It will certainly ripen. So therefore, understanding karma is really actually the most fundamental, important dharma practice. And when we speak about karma, we often speak about it in the context of the 10 virtuous actions and 10 non-virtuous actions. But the main point is actually very simple. You try to help others, and if you can't help others, at least you don't harm others. And just that much is actually observing the essence of karma.
我他这我当初的来做一个样子，开始那在他连着开始做的连着做，大家过去送哪怕连着做了说就上次个吧，那做着也要嘛的，他过连着那米可对那米给的，当然说，谁穷可容了，对不对呢？过这个是米也把点起来的，没那长完就这样子，弄的小黑心样子，听说我人多嘞，没这长完没我那些吃完了吧。 사바레선 서베이크랑 이랬던데 매 정보 차식을 했어 매 거랑 用西巴的是没西巴嘛的是，这龙头下面最多要有嘛哇，我这龙下面新西巴的是，你那这来的那没得路这个嘛的是。我这六千塔克来呢，那嘎巴家样去没啥事，6000多的来家吧，才听到说到6000塔克来呢，那嘎巴家样去没啥，但6000塔克来咋个了说呢？嘎巴家说呢，这去什么说迷糊的是，这个他没完就是早些他的话，这个你没完就是我这6000整体我那这个迷糊个的是，我这那都完去了嘛，这那个说get up 地方。我这说 countable 在说系统那当说偏不有偏个的是。
Hmm. So in terms of karma, some people think that it's all just in this life, that this kind of karma in this life, but then when we die, everything ends, and karma ends along with everything else, or everything just ends. But that's not true. If a cause exists, the results will follow. Karma will not just end with this life. It is said in the sutras that you you can't catch the fire cannot turn cold, but it's not entirely impossible. So it could maybe turn cold. You can't really catch the wind with a lasso, but you might. So there's a slight possibility you can catch the wind with a lasso. However, karma is unfailing. It's impossible for karma not to ripen once the cause has been created. So that's completely certain. So it's more likely for fire to turn cold and for you to catch wind with lasso than for karma not to ripen. Then it is said in a sutra called the 100 verses of the Prashna Paramita. It says the karma accumulated by a being with a body, like an embodied being, may be latent for hundreds of aeons, but it will never go away. When the right conditions come together, then the results will ripen, and that is a certainty. And so for this reason, it's important that we practice virtue and we abandon non-virtue as much as we can.
真的，他这当起呢，我说连着做这，他们去呢，我们穷穷没得家，他说，连着在米没牙齿没听着要嘛的，我听对我说，假如单边多才就有啊，我听到推荐那的假如着就那，推荐那的推出在来的，这假如着就那，龙球杂汤那些节目呢，是在龙球杂汤。在大家问这边就是忙不在年这忙不节有了哇，他这起码是当块工作忙不有了，这他妈经常有嘛是，推荐那的结果弄出来的基本才能看着样子，可能他现在对这那边的开始送的呢，我在来成长回来种的，我在来成长回来，来成长，我就真的来头那说个，但是说不讲话，参别处。수도 비자바 담배추 정도 말하래. 수토나 냠냠 수치나 담배추도 수 냠냠 지나다. 뭐 토면 요마 제인이 말아서 내려 yap고서 냠냠 yap고지나다 수도 비자바 담배추 수와도 수토나 진짜 교래데. 대인이 말아서 초hin다 요 말이다. 저 니마 샤나 제 사자 그게 샤르가시 메샤야 룸바야도 지금 말아요 봐. 저 나이에 담배추도 냠냠 지나 말아서 상마를 팽게래. 저 나이에
And so karma, in terms of the ripening of karma ripens for everyone equally. So that's the meaning of karma never deceives, meaning that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't depend on whether you are high or low status, big or small, or strong or weak. It doesn't matter who you are. In the Sutra of Advice to the King, it says, when the time comes for the king to leave this life, neither possessions nor friends will follow. Wherever the king may go, his karma follows him like a shadow. So when the king dies, the consciousness departs, And karma follows that consciousness like a shadow follows a body, along with all the happiness and suffering, all those causes stored in the mind. And also Milarepa said that whoever practices the Dharma, or the Dharma is beneficial for whoever practices it. Whether you are high or low, it makes no difference who you are. There is no bias when it comes to Dharma practice. Everyone is totally equal. For example, when the sun rises, when the sun shines, it shines on the whole area of land. It doesn't decide, I'm just going to shine here today, I'm not going to shine there today. It shines everywhere equally. If it rises, it shines everywhere equally. And the Dharma practice is like that. It benefits everyone equally.
我的应该说在门的下乡，咱们开始在看来呢，在普通操的嘞，听着用过的，基本里面可能来啥的，开始在干年忙忙吃到呀，说这来啥下来，我在今天们那里边才送有了，说真的，才送有的，也给点来遇的是，现在的呢，他说是。大啥子心里也会去穷的马来斯，那我说那咋办就不来斯，马来人也有的是，我真的送他家那他说是，马说他不去送马来的，我的块这边他那没人饶说，马他说咱说啊，咱送这家伙事了哇，我这
Kan
边
det
呢，
ook, det är långt det stopp där. Kan det
也给
långt?
来有的打死，马来这边。也给点来有了，但啥子都样的，先搞他说，从能这边是接触过来是，我这啥子都心里呀，心个呀，从这里买的心个的呀，这买的是，可能我做那啥就这是，我真的买了给人家有的，那人家吧，他说，可是那在从前这是家那，他啊，收着过来，收着啊，他人一天去口了，阳说起来之后，我这对这人家吧，说嘛，收不起是买的是，我这块是咋的，他那没的是。我他怕的一大次所以呢，他一大次呢，什么他都不认识。我这可能超过其实他妈的事情呢，可能你妈生那起边那民众，我真正他说那米，真正没有或者是来做些提醒，然后这我这真正让我认多。
That some people seem to have it all perfect, with things that just going well for them, and that is due to their past karma, a positive karma. And some others experience hardship, and that is also due to past karma. Milarepa said that the god in the god realms, the gods plant, so they sow their crop, and the moment they sow it, it already grows. So the crop grows upon being sown, and that is not because they have really good soil, they have really good fields. It's the result of past merit. And so it's not that the gods have a better soil, it's just the good karma that they have. And in the hell realms, weapons naturally appear, and beings murder each other, and they die. And then the moment they die, they come back to life, and then they die again. Like there's this hell, the reviving hell. And this is not due to some miraculous powers of coming back to life, but this is due to powerful negative karma. So it's not that anyone intends to do it a certain way. It's that it's not that there's no real like intention in terms of this is like how like what I'm going to do or experience. It's due to the causes that were created in the past.
我真的出国在这，俺做出国在，东岸的研究绝对因为给为人提拔些是，我到东岸是差不多东岸的用过的吧，俺说，我东岸是用的在今年起啊，看错的是研究节呢，但可是吧，你我们都咱们研究节，我这的呢在秋起啊，然后他就用过的吧，他就忙不有的，他就人家说不会呢，他就忙不穷的嘛，我别讲的干部办的事情呢，他不在没上去管的这个，不用把它。这可能面的路标要不前面头要不先到啊，我面头要不先给的，这里可能强势家不和解不忙解有啥的，我这期的你们这老二这不是你不写的，不是你不写送的，真的不是你不着马鸡， 야홍데 다티 콜지 방법 페이지 보면这些这种马吉松说那这些这马吉啥的真的他见面拿的三大特别拿真这个有人不拿真的差不多就去那么多这差不多就去那么多真的啥去那么多这欧马送啥这有人不多的就是了吧
Mhm.
欧马送啥
Okay.
的欧马送啥马西啥的都是啥的我的熊
Mhm.
我的有人不太的有啥的你妈这 根本可能别想的是落地个啥的，这什么过了？你见面那西洋面都吧，那没想到这想巧的啥的，咱这个下去多久？可能是的，其实就那种就是想巧是的，那个跟对的确吧不，可去过那去过，他讲了想巧的这么多，就当可能你我们都基本什么都是。我真的我让你谈谈那个咱们最对的人，那个就是那这样了的意思。我听那种多晓得冇看了，现在俺是在想吃什么东西，自己拿了想吃什么东西，哪看把先看到了想吃什么东西，俺是想吃的，其他想吃什么东西，我其他了这个人那他俺是在比如怕的，当时见面在想着给什么东西，我听那是个想吃东西，这干不办啊？这就那罗要怎么没意思，光他俺也不他的，在过去那种不的那个时间看，山上看这样，这怎么没意思？那在大西洋西上那个去那个。听着杨山在上头在听着真美啊！俺把在公办这在罗拉不穷，真的把在公家面要不去多是没真弄面，没事可吧？但你我们都西部西南们都是，我听着咱是中多下，但是没看了都是，那你对大起来看就是那么有一些有是的，但是但就那个我这个家来也没在吃，帮不着了，帮不没在吃是没在吃。这个听住了，别下的我下那，但那几老些事，我一起下去的。这么就是干部别的别家的我下那，当然过去了。现在这些头前几面是我就那么大时间在，我头没人讲，他们家就这样多些，但没没这欧洲是多么些事多些，这干部把这接了。这咱求去啊，这干部把这他不该就现在穷样的，我今天听着在那这年来头去特别穷有了。
Mhm. Mm, And so sometimes suffering arises, and uh, it is unpleasant, but maybe it could also help us deepen our practice. It can help us arouse, generate some renunciation. It can bring us renunciation when we've seen that samsara has no essence. And there are many stories of people in Tibet, for example, who have practiced in this way. They have practiced so diligently because they saw that samsara has no essence. Gampopa, for example, he was born into a wealthy family and he became a skilled doctor. He was very skilled in medicine and he became married and he had a daughter and a son. And one day, both children suddenly died. It was actually first the daughter died and then later the son died. And so one day they brought the bodies of their children to the cemeteries. And after they were gone, his wife also fell ill. And she stayed bedridden for a long time, on the verge of death, but holding on to life and barely breathing, but not dying. And so one day, Gampopa thought that what is it that she's holding on so much to? What is holding her back? She should move on. So he asked her. So one day he asked her, "So what is it that are you? What is it that you're so attached to? Are you still so attached to our field or our wealth, our property, our possessions? What is it?" He said that it's all pointless. We should offer it all up. Don't be attached to that. And then she said that this is not what I'm attached to. I'm not attached to any of our possessions and our wealth and our things. But I'm attached to you. Because after I die, you're going to bring my body to that cemetery and then find another wife. And then to that, Gampopa said, I will not marry again. I have seen that samsara has no essence. We have spent this time together in this life, but eventually we all have to part. It is just for the time being. I know that samsara has no essence. When you die, I will not marry again. I will go to the monastery, become a monk, and I will only practice the pure Dharma. And to that, she said, I trust you. You have never lied to me before. I believe you. But still, for this one, I want a witness. So then they invited a witness, and that witness brought a holy text, and he placed that holy text on Gampopa's crown for him to take. Really? Yes, a witness. And then the witness put that text on the crown of Gampopa, and he said, now take the oath. So he took the oath in the presence of this witness. And so he took the oath, the vow, said, he vowed, I will never marry again. I will only practice the pure Dharma. And after that, her breath stopped and she passed away. And he kept true to his word. Gampopa then dedicated himself fully to practice. He became a monk, and from him then the Dakpo lineage was. So from him, it was from him that the Dakpo lineage was born. But then first he became a monk in a Kadampa monastery, and then later he met Milarepa. So he became Milarepa's disciple. So it's time. So we stop here for today and see you next week.
Yeah. Die this strategy. Yeah, okay, English.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta. And through that, may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong views.
Gente, nicht? 사선해. Ina,
May I not
Ina?
experience
Ja,
untimely
men Yudin, okay.
Of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
现在气算。
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
这现在我让直接要不然这还看是
Oh, oh.
Yeah, okay, thank you everybody.
Thank you, Rupan.
Thank you.
Drupanam.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.
people happy.
Okay. Okay, thank you.